Hey folks, this is Nate coming at you late on a Friday evening, just before Christmas. It's on December 22nd. So today, I got my delivery from SaberTrio from their last RTS sale, which was a Whispers of Koboh Vahlken saber, which has some really nice, really beautiful etch work on this. And then they also did a really nice job on top of the etch work with this sort of powder coating, or some sort of coating. I don't know if it's a powder coat, but so it's really nice and smooth on top, even though you can still feel the ridges from the etch work. It's been coated over, and I really like that texture, that feel to it. But I'll show you the etch work up close here. Now I do have an older RTS Vahlken, the Elemental Spire, which has similar etch work, but it's different, and it's also a little bit darker. The gunmetal, or the silver portions of the hilt, are just a little bit darker. But from far away they look similar. So anyway, very happy with this saber. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to do two things. In this first video, basically wanted to sort of give everybody a preview of what it's like. And then in the second part, I wanted to give sort of a review of their new power core. So I as always, when I first get my sabers, I put my own configs on here. I know SaberTrio has done a lot of work sort of fashioning and packaging their default Proffies as well as their CFX configurations on these Neo Sabers, and I appreciate their efforts in doing that. However, that being said, I'm not a big fan of their default Proffie package. The reason I'm not really a big fan of it is because they do some code forking on the programming. They basically put in their own custom prop file, and part of the programming around their custom prop files for Proffie boards is that they sort of try and fashion the function of the Proffie saber closer to what a CFX saber behaves like, and I don't like that. I like my Proffie sabers to function like Proffie sabers, not like faux CFX sabers. And I get why they do it from like a marketing and uniformity standpoint when you're selling Neo Sabers to a lot of people of all different knowledge levels, from the very basic novice saber users all the way up. You kind of want to package the saber experience as similar as you can across all of the different options of boards that you offer. So from a marketing perspective, I totally get it, and that's fine. But I don't feel like I'm in the target demographic of the people that they're aiming these changes for. I like my own custom configs. I have a lot of them templated off, saved on my machine, for all types of different sabers that I collect, and they're all Proffie boards. So that's what I use. So not really a slam on their default configs for these. It's just not for me. So I like my own. So put that out of the way. Let's take a look at what the insides of these look. Now this is from their newest RTS sale, which features their newest power core design, or internal sort of all-in-one chassis. I'm going to turn this off here so I can turn it around without it gesturing back on. So this is what their new power core looks like. So this is a removable chassis, and it's non-indexed, and it's got the pin connector set up top underneath. All right. And then this housing up top here is also where you have the programming for the switches, for the aux switch and the power switch, and then the pin setup for the blade. And then the blade, I got a 32-inch heavy grade NeoPixel blade with this one. And their blades are always pretty good quality blades. I didn't get it sanded, but I'll end up sanding it myself at some point, because it's good to have your blades, especially your heavy grade, but I like having my blades sanded. And then so it's a fairly simple, I think this is either a 7-pin, this looks like a 7-pin or a 9-pin setup, non-illuminated. Right. And that's the pin setup up top. So this is sort of the Saber empty, so to speak. Now, one of the nice things about SaberTrio's new chassis design, that comes all the way out, is that what they are now allowing people to do is to go online and purchase essentially a hilt without the core, because these cores are now interchangeable throughout their entire hilt lines. So you can go online now and get, say, another Vahlken, right, without the core, with just the switch housing, with just the top portion, for a much less reduced price. So if you already have one power core, you can go ahead and pick one of these up, for like, I think it's like $250 or something like that, maybe a little more than that, and be able to switch this power core into any of the other new sabers that they're designing. So again, really big improvement, really nice step up. This is sort of like the same model that Bendu Armory does with their quick swap chassis that they've been doing for about 4 or 5 years now, maybe 6 years. It's a good system because it encourages people to buy more hilts, but it doesn't break their wallet. So for people that are sort of on a budget, if you make that initial investment on one of these sabers of, for like $500, $600, $700, and that gets you the power core, you can now do some additional sub-investments or subsequent investments, spending $300 here, $300 there, getting more of these hilts in different versions that you might have wanted without having to get more cores. So all in all, that part of it is a plus. I really like that. So onto the core. I have some mixed feelings about this core. All in all, I think it's an improvement over the chassis design they had before, which was kind of sort of removable, but it wasn't designed to be removable. It was sort of like on this retention band, so when you pulled it out, it would like snap back in. But there was a way that you could fully remove it if you needed to. It just wasn't very easy, and they didn't encourage people to do that. But the chassis itself was okay, and they were using these sort of custom 22mm Vecco speakers that they worked to design specifically for their chassis, which sounded, they sounded okay. They were pretty good. With these new power cores, okay, they're back to using 28mm speakers, which I like. That's good. And they're up. They sort of have. They've also included sort of more powerful cells. So these are the 3120s that they have in here now. Now I suspect that's also to help support higher LED count blades that are starting to come out on the market, like the tritium blades and other blades with higher than 144 LED counts, blades with higher drain. And so I think this was a good move on their part to incorporate a larger, higher capacity battery. That was definitely a plus. All right, kill switch has been moved. It's up top here.
Take your Jedi weapon.
Right, so that's sort of the same. It used to be here on the back, so that when you slid it out, it was just right there. They've moved it up in the front here now. Now, even though this core is not technically indexed, you'll notice that there is a slat here on this side. And what they've done is they've set it up so that the slat goes in. It locks across the screw that goes through from the cover tech wheel, right? So that screw, don't know if you can see it, it's right there. That's what hooks onto that the slat, so that when you slide it in, it doesn't move around, right? So again, that's a good design. That's a pro. I like these kinds of designs where you don't have to necessarily orient the chassis directly against the pins, but there's something else on the Saber that helps align it and keep it in check, keep it locked, right? So that was a nice design decision on their part. I'm not really a fan of these exposed wires that I see underneath here. I'm kind of sort of worried that over time this will get a little messy, and I don't know the hook that it connects to in the center back here. I don't know what that's made of, and I don't know what the consequences will be over time if the wiring under here starts to move around, right? So that's sort of a question mark for me. I'm not sure quite how I feel about the exposed wiring sort of being bunched up right behind this connector pad. Also, one of the other major changes on this core is that you'll notice there's no micro USB port on top of the Proffie board anymore. What they've done is they've combined the power, the recharge port, as well as the data port here. So this is a USB-C connector. This is what you plug in to power up the chassis to charge it. But this is also what you plug into your computer with the data cable when you want to do changes. Now be careful the first time you do that. One of the things I noticed right away is when I tried to connect again, I had to give it a little extra push and hear it click before it connected all the way. And that kind of worried me at first, because the first time I did it, I didn't push it all the way. And then I connected it to the Saber, and even though it gave me a boot sound, the SD card didn't mount like I was expecting it to. So I was like, I wonder what's wrong. So then I tried it again, and then I realized there was a little bit more push in there. Pushed again, I heard another click, and then sure enough, it showed up, and everything was fine. So, no real problem there. One thing I don't like about this is this piece right here, which is completely flat, which makes it a little bit more difficult to move the SD card hanging out, because that means you can only pinch it off the sides to pull it out. You can't get underneath it because this whole piece right here is completely flat. So not a big fan of that. I would have loved to have this piece either angled down a little bit or just lower so that there's some open air here to make it easier to access the SD card. The speaker, I don't know what type of 28mm speaker they're using. I don't think it's a Smuggler's Outpost or a KR speaker. It sounds okay. I'm probably going to get the speaker upgraded to a Smuggler's Outpost just because I know they're good. I use the Elites and the Darks on most of my custom builds, and I love them. And while this one sounds okay, I'm probably going to go and get the speaker upgraded at some point. But probably not until after I do some sound tests between this Saber and some of my other 28s, just to see if there's enough of a sound difference to warrant the upgrade, right? It may turn out that they sound exactly the same and they're fine, in which case I'll leave it alone. But so there's that. And then there was one other thing about this that that I wanted to mention. Oh, yeah. These are Proffie board 2.2s. Wow. I was expecting Proffie board 3.9s, to be honest with you. And that's sort of a major bummer for me. I don't like the idea of spending a lot of money on new Proffie Sabers with old boards in them. I know that a lot of manufacturers have, an excess or a backstock or whatever of 2.2 boards, and maybe they think that there's really not that much of a functional difference between a 2.2 board and a 3.9 board, but there are enough differences where a 3.9 board, if it's available, you should be using them. They're better boards. If only for the fact that they carry about 3 times the memory capacity for, blade styles, sound font presets, and all of that stuff. If only for that reason, customers that are paying for new Sabers with new chassis designs deserve the new boards. So that was kind of a bummer for me when I first opened this up and realized that these were shipping with 2.2 boards. That bummed me out a little bit. But overall, I like the chassis design. I don't have a huge problem with it. It's very easy to manage, and I'll still be getting a lot of use out of this. But I'm really sort of I'm trying to get away from spending money on new Sabers that have old tech in them. I have 3 Sabers right now that have V39 boards in them, Proffie boards, and they're great. And I get to load tons and tons of stuff on them. The configs I have for those Sabers have we're talking 30, 35 presets on them with full blade styles that are doing all kinds of stuff. And the memory it holds, it's just so much better. They could have done better in that department, I think. But all in all, I'm really, really happy with this Saber. It's beautiful etch work. I turned off the illuminated switch in my style codes. I'll probably turn them back on at some point, but I wanted to do a test to see if, even though the illuminated switch on here is wired on the board as a blade and not as its own separate static connection or constant connection, so it shouldn't be draining the battery. But I wanted to do a test first with a config that doesn't activate it, and then with a config that does, and see if there's a drain difference, just to be sure. And right now I've got my config set at I think 2200. So it's the speakers at about 70% capacity. These are 3-watt 4-ohm 28mm speakers. So your config caps at 3000 volume value, and ideally you really don't want to go above 24,000-2500. At that level, you're probably going to start to hear some sound distortions.
Leave us.
So let's put this blade back in.
Wayland Skull.
Again, one of the things I love about the Vahlken is nice windowed emitters right here.
Shin Hati.
Sabine.
Deeper sound font. Give an idea for something lower on the register here.
Directly not found.
Oh, whoops. That was my power level indicator. Forgot to put that font on my SD card. I'll have to fix that.
The Emperor.
So that's the Saber. This is the Neo Saber from SaberTrio, the Proffie Whispers of Koboh Vahlken, with their newly released power core technology. I hope this review is helpful. Definitely, if you have comments or questions, experiences of your own that differ from mine, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. And yeah, one of the things I am looking forward to is going back to SaberTrio probably sometime after Christmas the next year, and starting to pick up more of their empty hilts that have the new housings for the power cores, and start sort of collecting those to round out, the SaberTrio hilts that I still want. So we're probably going to pick up another Reaver, and then possibly a second arc light, because I really like the arc light. It's kind of a cool hilt. And yeah, and go from there. Maybe a solo guard. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I've got a few more acquisitions videos coming up. I have the Starfall Legacy, which is currently almost done getting installed, and my throwing hunters from KR, they're also done getting installed. So those will likely be my next acquisitions demo video coming up in like a week or so, sometime after Christmas. So have a Merry Christmas, everyone. If I don't video out to you before then, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. May the force be with you.